Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stream 3 of the 4th Annual Digital Transformation in Government Conference. This session will be recorded and will be available on the conference website in the next day or so. Daniel has generously agreed to field questions on the fly, so if you do have questions, please indicate so, and Daniel will do his best to answer them. So our speaker is Dr. Daniel Amyot. His presentation is entitled A Graduate Program for Digital Transformation and Innovation. Daniel is a professor at the School of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science at the University of Ottawa and co-director of the graduate programs in Digital Transformation and Innovation. His research interests include software engineering, scenario-based, and goal-based requirements engineering, business process modeling and mining, regulatory compliance, smart contracts, and healthcare informatics. Daniel led the standardization of the user requirements notation, which combines goal and process modeling at the International Telecommunication Union. He is now heavily invested in the development of Symboleo, a language for specifying, verifying, and monitoring smart legal contracts. He was general chair of the Requirements Engineering Conference in 2015 and program co-chair in 2018. Daniel is on the editorial boards of SoSyM and REJ journals. He holds a Ph.D. in computer science from the University of Ottawa and is a professional engineer, I.S.P, and a senior member of IEEE. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Amyot.
Thank you so much, Steve. It's very nice to be here. So given the name of the conference, it's very appropriate to have a presentation on programs that actually are called Digital Transformation and Innovation that are available here at the University of Ottawa. So essentially what I'll be doing is to give you a quick overview of those programs that we have here, and also give you examples of multidisciplinary digital transformation research projects in which I've been involved, just as a sample of what our students are working on. So if you know about process mining or regulatory intelligence or smart contracts, you might be interested by those applications. In case you have to leave, these are the conclusions. So I always start with takeaways. So DTI is increasingly essential everywhere. We have programs that are multidisciplinary by nature, so involving engineering, management, and arts that essentially produce well-rounded graduates ready to contribute to a better world. We also are working on a new online DTI Master's program coming next year for mid-career professionals in Canada. So this might interest some of you. There are many opportunities to collaborate as well with DTI students and professors along the way. And DTI research can take many forms, but often combines technology or management and also communications in various domains. So I guess the main message is that we're open to collaboration, and this might trigger some opportunities. So DTI at the University of Ottawa is something that has been around for over 20 years, but under different names. So in the past, those programs were called e-business, and they got renamed 4 years ago to reflect essentially the need for digital transformation and also innovation in our areas. So the idea is to leverage interdisciplinary knowledge for social benefit, to make sure that we have informed evidence-based digital policy, which are quite relevant to governments. We want also to harness creativity to foster digital innovations, and we want to leverage the power of technology to transform business and society. So DTI is really about leveraging digital technologies to enable many, many important points. including meeting client requirements in very competitive markets, to optimize business processes or even clinical processes in healthcare, to analyze many types of data to discover insights that we can act on, to make informed business decisions, to improve operations. So those are conventional areas, but we also have areas where we do a bit more communication. So communicating strategic and operational insights to leadership effectively, to design creative user experience in business and social interactions, to improve customer engagement, to support continuous innovation, and many other cool things along the way. So DTI aims to train highly qualified personnel, as we call them, HQP, and well-rounded professionals to create, manage, and research the many changes to our world that are happening as a result of digital technology. And as I mentioned previously, the program is essentially managed by 3 faculties. So we have the Faculty of Engineering, where we also have the School of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science, and the new School of Engineering Design and Teaching Innovation. We have the Telfer School of Management, the Faculty of Arts, and we also have many professors from outside of these faculties, including people from education, law, health sciences, social sciences, medicine, and so on. So it's truly a multidisciplinary environment. So this is a follow-up to the previous e-business programs, and we expanded the scope essentially to include more areas of relevance to digital transformation and innovation. And administratively, the program is part of the new CIPS. And CIPS essentially is the latest school inside the Faculty of Engineering, which is in charge of the multidisciplinary programs in DTI, but also in system science and engineering management and engineering design. We are also launching a new undergraduate program in multidisciplinary design, all this part of the Faculty of Engineering. By the way, I would like to recall that you can ask me questions on the fly, so you just need to unmute your microphone and interrupt me at any time. So we have multiple types of programs within DTI. So we have a Ph.D. It's been around for almost 10 years. We have 4 types of master's degrees. So we have a master's degree with thesis, and we have a Master of DTI program with a project. And then we also have 2 variants of the MDTI program in applied data science, and the other in user experience design. So essentially they have specific courses to take, whereas the regular MDTI has a bit more flexibility and freedom. We're working towards an online course-based MDTI program also for mid-career professionals in Canada next year, hopefully by May, according to the most recent plans. We have over 150 students right now, about 65 PhDs, the rest are master's students. The program is mainly composed of international students at the moment, and most of them have also several years of work experience. So they come back to get more essentially theoretical and practical skills to deal with the many challenges that we're facing nowadays. The program has many types of courses. So we have courses on obviously technologies for mobile commerce, e-commerce, essentially the core of the previous generation of the program. But we also have data science, data analytics, BI. We have systems of innovation, inclusive innovation as well. We have ethics courses. We have UX courses, design thinking, user research, interaction design, visual literacy, cybersecurity, enterprise architecture, project management, digital marketing, entrepreneurship, research workshops, and so on. So those are the kind of courses available for the various flavors of the programs that we have. We're also quite big on what we call experiential learning, and the students have multiple opportunities, I would say, to work in collaboration with other researchers or people from industry. For example, we have a very popular co-op program, and the co-op option in the master's in the TI program are 8 months long, usually at the same location, but sometimes people prefer doing twice 4 months. We have various projects. So part of the master's programs needs to cover essentially 6 units, so the equivalent of 2 graduate courses of projects, other research projects with professors essentially, or industry projects where there is a collaboration with external people, and also sharing of the evaluation responsibilities. Several students also get internships with MyTax in collaboration with industry. We have also students doing the work-study program or the SWEP program with the government. There is also funding available through research and teaching assistantships along the way. And since we are dealing with multiple faculties in engineering, we have something called a professional development club, which is quite popular and essentially is gathering projects from industry and finding students to match them against and essentially enable useful collaborations in realistic settings. The faculty of the Telfer School of Management also has a specific unit responsible for finding project jobs, internships, and so on. So there are many opportunities available, and obviously we're quite open to having people from industry come and discuss with us how best to involve students in their organizations. The new online masters will essentially target part-time students from Canada. So it will be composed of 10 courses, no projects. It will be in English. It will be online but synchronous, so essentially in the evenings, so that we can accommodate people who work during the day. The master will be composed of 4 mandatory courses on ethics for design, digital transformation technologies, innovation management, and also process modeling, mining, and automation. And that's the course that I'm grading right now. And there will be 6 other courses. Essentially, there will be 6 options of 3 courses each. We're adding essentially our own expertise in user experience design. So we'll have 3 courses in that stream. We're creating also cybersecurity courses. And also, we also have an existing engineering management program online that offers options in data analytics, product innovation and management, technology, project management, and operation management. So these sets of 3 courses will also be available to students in our program. Just to give you an idea of the kind of topics that our research-oriented students work on, those are recent theses that have been published in the past few years. So they target telehealth services, digital transformation and society, data mining, the exploitation of social media data to detect illnesses along the way. Obviously, we had theses related to COVID and various kinds of responses, microservices, real-time recommendations, process mining. So there's a wide variety of technologies and application domains that are targeted by our researchers. So those are the different options that exist within DTI as graduate programs. Are there any questions at this point before I move to part 2? Nope. So I will go through essentially 3 sample research projects in which several students have been involved in the past. And the first one targets an emerging technology that we call process mining, which essentially uses data to understand who does what when inside organizations or in collaboration with various information systems. So the idea is that we have data-driven process models instead of relying on the perception of people in terms of what people are doing inside the organization or what they should be doing. And the example I'm usually using is this one here. So you have a process model. This is what people should be doing inside the organization. But when you look at the evidence, essentially in the form of an event log extracted from information systems, very often you realize that this is the process model that people use in practice. And then you can assess essentially whether what people do in practice is better than what we thought originally, in which case you should update, your process model and directives. Or if there are some, non-compliance issue that relate to some difficulties or bad outcomes, then there are opportunities to put in place a better instruction so that people can follow the process that they should be using. So that's the main idea. And when I talk about event logs, essentially the data that we need to enable process mining, it's usually composed of 3 important data types, I would say. So some identification of a process instance, so a patient, a student, somebody who makes a request for some government service, an event or an action, and also the time at which that event has happened. And then you can have additional pieces of data describing who is performing the action, for example, the resource, additional resources being consumed or produced along the way, etc. And the idea is that we can feed that information through specialized tools that will output at the other end some process model describing essentially the sequencing of the various actions, the frequencies that reflect essentially the popularity of some paths or some actions along the way, bottlenecks, obviously opportunities for improvement, and so on. And there are many tools that exist out there to support essentially visualizing and analyzing and even simulating processes extracted from event logs. Some of them are commercial, like Disco, Celonis, and Apromore. Some of them are free and open source, like Prom. Some are available online. Some are available as desktop applications, which is sometimes more appropriate, especially if you cannot easily share your data on the cloud because of privacy issues or other difficulties. And very quickly, once you start using those tools and those technologies, you realize that probably 80% of the effort is in gathering the data and cleaning the data before we feed it to one of these tools for visualization and analysis. And some of the DTI students in the past have worked on essentially developing an API that enables people to create programs or scripts for cleaning data sets in a way that makes data logs more easily manageable by process mining tools. So we created first one such API in R. We ported it to Python last year, and we extended it recently by using it on several real applications. So this API is great. It's freely available. It's also being maintained and extended. to support more scenarios and more functions along the way. And again, the idea is to make sure that we take pieces of data, that we assemble them into event logs that make sense, that we filter the information that we want to keep and filter out the information we don't want, so that we avoid the kind of spaghetti process models that we get without proper pre-processing, so that we can generate more easily understandable processes out of the evidence that has been collected. So great API, reduction in complexity. We make sure that we preserve the main information along the way. It's credible and reproducible, and it's fast and scalable. So Naja has been working on this, for example. That was part of our DTI thesis a couple of years ago. And Naja will be presenting essentially on process mining in this conference on Thursday afternoon. We used it recently on government projects. Actually, we have a team of 4 students working on process mining for government and healthcare projects this summer. But this one is from last year. Essentially, we were looking at a specific process of security clearance, where essentially there was a digital transformation that essentially enabled people to go from the PDF files that they needed to fill in the past to a web-based interface. And then there is a lot of automation in the background to support essentially various steps of that process. We had access to real event logs, and Jacques Trottier did this project in DTI on that topic, and essentially found a lot of opportunities for improvement that were recently implemented, resulting in savings essentially several days per person on the process of getting this kind of approval. And this is something that is quite typical and can be replicated in other settings and other types of web-based application processes out there. Jacques will also discuss his experience on Thursday afternoon in this conference, if you are interested. I also supervise Madi Gassemi in his Ph.D. work on goal-oriented process enhancement and discovery. So whereas the API that we have targets fairly simple functions for filtering, sorting, and so on, we wanted to have something that essentially would take advantage of KPIs and also goal satisfaction to filter data sets and essentially get, again, resulting models that make more sense or essentially would represent in a better way several key aspects of who is doing what when. So he came up with this goal-oriented process enhancement and discovery, where we could essentially generate sub-processes that would satisfy specific goals of the organization so that we can promote best practices inside the organization and perhaps also across organizations later on. We've applied it to healthcare situations as well. So, for example, there is a data set that exists out there on sepsis detection and management inside a hospital. And we developed essentially a goal model and indicators with a physician where we applied the technique to be able to answer various kinds of queries, such as this one here. So show me the process model for the traces where the top level goal is satisfied at a level of 95% or more. So we can essentially extract who is doing what when for good things, so when they're satisfying goals, but also for bad things. So when people are not meeting their objectives, what do they do? And again, this really enables a good understanding of what's happening inside the organization so that we can promote good practices and try to find ways to avoid bad practices along the way. And Naja is also looking at ways of exploiting data mining such that we can enable automation in many types of contexts. And for that, we're trying to combine process mining with robotic process automation, RPA, which is very popular in government settings as well. So each of these technologies has obviously their own challenges and their own opportunities. And we're trying to make sure that we can use process mining to detect which processes actually make sense for being automated through RPA, and also using process mining to monitor the effectiveness of the RPA application that resulted along the way, so that we can have some sort of constant monitoring and optimization of the automatic process. So process mining, several projects. That's a topic that is being investigated again very intensively these days. A second topic is one where we dealt with regulators. Ottawa is the mecca of federal regulators, and we worked in collaboration with several of them to understand essentially their needs to evaluate how good their regulations were. So essentially, are they efficient? Are they effective? And when organizations or people comply with those regulations, does this lead to the expected outcomes that regulators have in mind? Or are they doing something different and yet are meeting the outcomes as well? So regulators are looking for opportunities to improve and optimize their own regulations, and they want to do it on a faster pace than what is actually done. And this was a thesis, again, of another DTI student, Heidi, who essentially combined business intelligence with regulatory compliance and goal modeling to enable this kind of vision. And he usually gave a simple example. So we have regulations for texting while driving. So drivers shall not text on mobile phones while driving. And the regulation exists, but we need to make people aware of it so that they don't violate it along the way. So sometimes there are what we call regulatory initiatives. So, for example, some advertisement program on social media that will aim to raise the awareness about the regulations, or TV ads or Facebook ads and so on. And the idea is to reduce texting-related accidents by some proportion over a certain amount of time. And obviously we need to measure those things, right? And regulators are not always great, I would say, at identifying indicators and KPIs early so that we can put them into practice. So sometimes we need to define them as well. So here we're measuring the number of infractions per 100,000 inhabitants per month, and so on. We can measure the effectiveness of the regulatory initiative and the societal goal as well. And all of this information can be assembled. So a regulation is usually fairly complex. It has a hierarchical structure with many clauses along the way. And we need to essentially assemble the various indicators as well. So we can do that for the regulation itself, for the initiatives, and for the expected social outcome that are of interest. And we can essentially populate those models and feed them to BI tools to understand whether there is a correlation between the initiative and compliance, and whether there is also some sort of impact of us complying with the regulation on the societal outcome at the end. And this is what YIT did. So we developed a methodology and demonstrated it with 3 regulators in 3 domains, essentially. And we were using BI tools to visualize and analyze and query, essentially, the models that were collected along the way, so that we can try to understand, essentially, how well the population is complying with regulations, and if there are lessons to be learned in one place, what are they, and can they be fed to the other members of that population. So this was a very interesting project again. So combining management, law, and technology, so computer science, in a very, very novel way. And the last sample I want to mention is related to the interest in smart contracts these days. So a lot of people have been talking about smart contracts in the past 10 years and what they can do for us in terms of automation while providing some guarantees in terms of non-tampering with the data, etc. So what we're trying to do in this project is to make sure that smart contracts are more than just simple programs that provide money when something happens, which is a big proportion of the existing contracts, but that they reflect essentially legal contracts that currently exist in the world, including with government and various agencies. So we make this distinction between legal contracts, which essentially specify the terms and conditions that apply to business transactions. And they're very difficult to analyze because they're usually expressed in natural language, they're ambiguous. And on the other side, we have smart contracts that are programs that will partially automate and control some aspects of those legal contracts and also monitor compliance along the way. Smart contracts are often associated with blockchains as an underlying technology, but they don't need to exist within a blockchain environment. So we can use more conventional technologies to support smart contracts. So we're interested essentially in making sure that we can go from natural language contracts to smart contracts that essentially reflect their meaning. And for that, we decided to create a new language called Symboleo that enables essentially capturing the behavior of natural language legal contracts while enabling two very important things, one of which is the analysis so that we can do verification of properties on the formalization of the contracts to make sure that the contracts make sense, first of all, before we convert them to smart contracts that can be deployed, for example, on a smart contract architecture. So this is what we do, right? So we have natural language contracts with the various terms and conditions. We have our language that describes essentially what is the domain of the contract, what are the assets, what are the parties involved, what are the obligations, what are the powers that the various parties have along the way. And this is formal enough to enable various kinds of property checkings, and also formal enough to enable the automatic generation of smart contracts that will monitor the execution of those contracts for compliance along the way. So we do have code generators. We're targeting JavaScript for the Hyperledger platform right now. We have high quality smart contracts ready to be deployed. We also did that for half a dozen large examples, and when we realized we have about a 14:1 ratio in terms of line of codes from Symboleo to JavaScript along the way. So many students also in more research-oriented projects tend to publish. So we do have many publications that involve our students and thesis along the way. So in conclusion, DTI is increasingly essential everywhere. We do have many programs at the master's level and at the Ph.D. level at the University of Ottawa that are multidisciplinary, that produce well-rounded graduates who are ready to contribute to a better world. We have a new online DTI program coming next year for mid-career professionals in Canada. There are many types of opportunities available for us to collaborate with people from the government and industry, and also DTI research can take many forms, but will often combine a mix of technology, management, and communication. and target vastly different domains along the way. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. I'll be open to questions.
Daniel, thank you very much for this very interesting, informative presentation. Let's open up the floor to questions.
So you can simply unmute yourself and ask a question, I hope.
Sort of a vague, difficult question perhaps to answer, Daniel, but what about the job market for graduates? What's that look like?
Well, those are master's and PhD programs, right? So very often we have people coming from a background of computer science, information systems, management, arts these days as well. So many of our graduates will find positions in conventional disciplines because of their background, but also in emerging ones where employers essentially have realized that over specialization is not good enough. You need to have somebody who understands business, who understands technical aspects, who understands communication as well. And this is where we add essentially a lot more value to many specific programs that are, I would say, monodiscipline or single discipline along the way. Obviously the job market was great until perhaps this summer. So we feel the recession hitting us. So a lot of the regular companies that would hire our graduates are slowing down on their hiring process. But this is impacting all of the IT sector at this point.
Has there been any impact from COVID?
COVID, not so much. Actually, the COVID and the pandemic in general had a positive impact on the hiring, I would say. So many of the IT companies grew substantially during the pandemic by hiring a lot of people, including our graduates. But yeah, so there is a bit of a compensation right now because of this extreme growth that happened within the past couple of years.
Thank you. I see something in the Q&A. You mentioned you have mostly international students. Are you using other strategies to also recruit Canadian students?
Yes, so we essentially tell our own students, for example, that they have a free admission to the program. The issue is that, and that's not just the University of Ottawa, that's across the country. A lot of Canadian students don't go to graduate studies at all, and because it's, especially in our area, it's easy to find good and exciting positions with a bachelor degree. So there isn't a lot of incentives to actually take those additional years and get another degree, which is not the case for international students, because we have a lot of immigrants who come here and their degree from their own country may be harder to be recognized by employers here. So usually they want to take a Canadian degree along the way so that they can improve their chances of getting a good position somewhere. And so usually they do graduate studies as a result.
And perhaps stay here in Canada.
Most of them will stay in Canada afterwards, definitely. So this is definitely a way to attract highly qualified people from outside the country and keep them here afterwards. I would say one of the strategy that we're using right now is this new online DTI program. So we do have an online master's degree in engineering management that is going very well. It's essentially targeting people who have positions right now and don't have the time to essentially take 2 years off to do a master's degree. or they live, outside the city or anywhere in the country, so they're too far from the University of Ottawa to make this happen in reality. So we've gained a lot of expertise and experience through the pandemic in online programs. So we're creating something that will essentially appeal to that population who wouldn't do a master's thesis or a master's program otherwise, and try to provide a great student experience along the way, and make sure that this will add skills and knowledge that will make a difference in the next step of their careers afterwards.
Thank you, Daniel. Any further questions?
Don't be shy.
If not, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Don't be shy, I was saying.
Yeah, that's right. Great opportunity for you to ask some questions of Daniel. Well, if there isn't, Daniel, I want to thank you so very much for taking the time to share with us your knowledge and expose us to this interesting subject matter. We have 5 minutes before or 4 minutes before the next session starts. So let's take that opportunity to stretch, grab a coffee. And once again, Daniel, merci beaucoup.
Merci. So don't hesitate to email me if you have questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.